I always do that. I always
Hello,
do like the
and
point to you to go
it's,
once I already hit the
I was going.
transition. I fuck it up every time. And I've just sworn. I've messed this up,
Uh,
Dan.
well, oh dear. All right. Well, let's. I'll carry on with the intro then. Hello, welcome to Brass Ringers. This is a show where we shine a spotlight on some of the wrestlers of times gone by that we feel deserve that spotlight shined on them. This week we're talking about Dean Malenko, and I'm joined with Dale Brody, as I am every week. And Dale, how
Sure.
are you today?
I'm doing all right. I don't know how it was up in Liverpool land, but this week's been bloody lovely in London. We hit temperatures of 21 degrees. I went out with a jacket, without a jacket on for the first time this year, which is always going to put me in a good mood. How about yourself, sir?
Well, yeah, I mean, I love all that. I love all that. Yeah, it was. We had, yeah, it was two really nice days, and I thought we were going to be like heat wave, but today is really, we're back down to reality.
It's going
But
to snow on Monday. To
well, that is just
to put that into perspective.
that is just the British weather for you. But I enjoyed it while it lasted.
Yes, it was
Uh,
pleasant.
all right, so today we're talking about Dean Malenko. Um, Now, just before we get into this, your impressions of Dean Malenko before any of this, like what kind of place does he hold in your memory as a wrestler?
Well, so I started watching wrestling around about 2003. So when I
Yeah,
start watching, he's done. Like he's not in.
yeah,
I don't know whether or not he was gone from the WWE or if he was just the backstage role that kind of people know him as now. I don't know if he'd already started that or like maybe did a run on the indies, but yeah, so he was done by the time I started watching wrestling. So my only kind of experience of him was like you'd see him in the video games. And spoiler alert, Dean Malenko is not the guy that if you don't know him and you see him as a character in a video game, you go, this guy looks like a guy I'm going to
yeah.
play. He doesn't. He always came across as the not the most charismatic in the world, so I've never really been drawn to him. But I have heard incredible things about him.
Yeah. He does. He kind of looks like the sort of you go into like create a wrestler mode on the video games. He kind of looks like the wrestler before you change anything.
Basically, he also. I mean, last week I said that Mike Awesome looked like an accountant. Like
Yeah.
Malenko and Awesome would be an accounting firm at 100%,
Blanco.
and I would use it. I would use it mostly because I'm scared of both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. All right. Cool. Well, just a brief biography then, as we usually do. We don't like to spend too long on this. You don't want to sort of belabor the point, but I'll give you a brief rundown of his career and where he was at certain times. So, started out earlier than I expected. Would you like to hazard a guess when Dean Malenko started his wrestling career?
I'm gonna guess 82.
Yeah, and I think that even, I mean, you're guessing that even, and I've just said earlier than I expected. So maybe you would have said, without my help, maybe like 84, 85, 78.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
guy was going a short while. From a big wrestling family. His dad was Boris Malenko, not a real name, they're stage names. His brother was a wrestler, so comes from a big wrestling family. One of the things, and I always think, I recently watched. You told me to watch actually the Randy Orton Broken Skull sessions,
Yes.
and he talks about dad was a wrestler. Um, and I always thought if your dad's in an industry like that, you're just going to grow up. You can't help but want to do the same thing. Interestingly,
Hmm.
Randy Orton said he sort of never wanted to do it because it was his dad.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure about Dean Malenko actually. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's given that detailed an interview, but regardless, from a big wrestling family, has that wrestling heritage, and you do usually find a certain technical prowess from those sort of second, third generation wrestlers. Um, Wrestled a lot in the Florida scene, Florida on the Indies until the early '90s, where he joined ECW. ECW, he was not in for a very long time. As we alluded to next week, people last week even, people sort of come in, they do their ECW stunt, and then they get the hell out of there. While he was at ECW, he got this nickname, the Shooter, and his gimmick was sort of like, it was kind of like a UFC fighter gimmick. Apparently because they thought he looked like Hoist Gracie. That's why he got that gimmick.
I can see that with the receding hairline. I get it.
Yeah, with the peninsula on the forehead there.
The widow's peak.
So he got this. Yeah. So he got this sort of UFC style gimmick, and you can sort of see it in ring as well, right? It's kind of no thrills, mat wrestling, man of 1,000 holds, that sort of thing. Joins WCW in, I believe, 1995, and has quite a good run there. As we're going to talk about on the matches that we talked about, this is a guy that's always opening the show. I think pretty much, with the exception of the WWE
final match is the only one
we're going to talk about, which is he didn't open, but he was like second to open on the card.
It's basically still opening. Basically.
Yeah, but known for these technical, no nonsense, no thrills matches. In fact, in ECW, at the time, it was him, Guerrero, Benoit. They were known as these like real technical aficionados. And then that
were they known as radicals?
We'll get to that, but yeah. So and they all obviously moved to WCW as well, and he's still in a lot of these same feuds. Has a good feud with Rey Mysterio, which we're going to talk about. Has a good long feud with Ultimo Dragon. It seemed these cruiserweights at the time in WWE, it seemed like they were wrestling each other a lot. They would be in these long programs, and so he's only at WCW for 3 years, so in programs this long, it doesn't actually amount to that.
Was he only there for 3 years?
Yeah, I think he left in 98, 99. When did WCW implode? It was
I think
around
99
that time,
he left. I think tail end of 99 he's gone, and then shows up in WWF at the time. Yeah, dates. Yeah, maybe the dates are a little. He's there for a while, then he goes to WWF.
He's there for a few years, and then he's to the WWF. Radicals, as you mentioned, with Benoit, Guerrero, and Saturn, right?
Yep, Perry Saturn.
Yeah.
Now there's a guy who I did click on in the video games. I was like, yeah, look at this tatted up dude. He's killing it. And then I watch him on TV and realize that he hangs out with a mop. So that's
exactly.
That's fun.
And so doesn't unlike Benoit and Guerrero, who had a very similar trajectory to him, although I believe a bit younger than him, doesn't ascend the heights of WWF or E at the time. He doesn't climb those heights. He doesn't win a world title, but he's nevertheless a solid sort of relied upon wrestler there. I guess what we want to explore today is whatever he should have done, whether he was better than he was given credit for, and whatnot. So, but one of the things, by the way, just before I wrap up, that is different than the other 3 wrestlers we talked about, the last 2 wrestlers we talked about, is that his career basically ended there. When he left WWE, he wasn't one of these guys who's wrestling in like bingo halls in his old age. He packed it in. I believe his last match was in the early 2000s something. I don't know exactly when it was, but he packed it in. He's now, I think in 2019, I think he works for AEW as a producer.
He does indeed.
Believe.
He moved over to AEW and he's kind of been helping out the younger talent there. Very sadly, he announced that he's living with Parkinson's now. But he's still going strong, still helping out the guys over there, and a lot of them say he's a wonderful producer. over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was, I can't remember if he was one of the ones let go in like the big April cull of last year, or if he went a little bit before then of his own volition. I can't remember. But either way, AEW now.
So there we go. That's a sort of brief overview of his career and the various places that he wrestled there. Now I decided not to choose any ECW matches for no other reason than we talked a lot about ECW last week, and we haven't done much WCW stuff, so we haven't done any WWE stuff. I don't believe.
No.
So I thought we'd sort of shift the focus a little bit. So the first match I want to talk about is the Ultimo Dragon match, which was in 1996, 7?
I believe 96. Clash of Champions 34. That much I do know.
Clash of
the Champions on TBS.
Which, now, just before we get into it, the Clash of the Champions, it's a weird thing, isn't it? I mean, because I was looking on the network and I was looking for WCW pay-per-views. Wasn't there. Oh, this is weird. It was
it's
it was one of these like it's its own thing. Yeah, it's one of these like TV. It airs on TV. It has ad breaks, but it has a sort of pay-per-view caliber card, which we're seeing making a bit of a renaissance now. We see it in NXT sometimes,
Great
where they
American
do like
Bash,
these special
Halloween
like TV
Havoc,
events.
New Year's Evil, stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah. So they're sort of bringing that back a bit now. What I didn't realize when I picked the Ultimo Dragon match is that there's a big bloody ad in front of it. Well, in the middle of it. So it was a little frustrating. I didn't realize that, but although the ad was kind of amusing. But it's for the cruiserweight title against Ultimo Dragon, and just before we get into it, I just want to say that this was when I was growing up. This might have been a bit early for me, just a little bit. I think I got into wrestling when I was about 8 years old, but WCW was my thing. I absolutely loved it, and one of the things I really loved were the cruiserweights. One of the cool things about WCW at the time was that they always used to open with the cruiserweights, and they would get you in the mood for the show, and it would really be a proper division. It was very well defined. That was defined, and that you would see these same characters that you were into that would be wrestling every week in their own style. And as a kid, that was my favorite part of the show. Like, I love these guys. I love Rey Mysterio. My favorite was Billy Kidman. I don't know why. I loved the jorts and the wife beater. I loved it. And this is very much, the two matches we're going to talk about are very much in that division, in this kind of insulated cruiserweight division of WCW at the time, which was really known for these really sort of great wrestlers. So let's talk about the Ultimo Dragon match. I know it was short. I know it had a bit ad break in the middle there, but what were your impressions of this match?
This match, it wasn't anything that this match didn't blow my mind. I'll be honest, I sat there most of this match thinking about how weird Ultimo Dragon's career has been. Because I watched Ultimo Dragon in 2003. He just randomly joined SmackDown. And then the only thing I remember, because at that time was the big kind of cruiserweight renaissance over on SmackDown in 2003. So I'm there with you. I was loving the likes of Rey Mysterio and Jamie Noble, and not so much Billy Kidman. They'd gotten rid of the jorts at that point, so I think the connection was gone. And then Ultimo Dragon showed up, and the only thing I remember him doing is the Asai moonsault, which is great, and tripping over his own cape as he did his entrance for WrestleMania 20. I don't know if that's still on the network version, but if so, go watch it. It's good fun.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a good match. It was a good match. It's very, and we'll see this more in the Rey Mysterio match, but I think what my impression of Malenko's style is he's almost there to play the spoiler to the cruiserweights. So traditionally it's very flippy and bouncy and all of this, and Malenko's there to be like, nuh-uh. we're going to ground this. We're going to bring it down. I'm going to slow everything down. I'm going to ground you. Going back to that kind of MMA style you spoke of a bit earlier. So you definitely get that kind of influence in his wrestling. It's very technical. It's very mat-based. But then there are moments, and again, I think more so in the Mysterio match, but there are moments where he'll just grab him out of, like, they'll be doing their big flip and he'll just grab him and hit him with a power slam, hit him with a power bomb, big suplexes, stuff like that. Just very quick, very sharp, and very smooth as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, yeah, it's a pretty straightforward match, especially compared to the next two. What I like about it is it's just so solid, like you said, or crisp, smooth. Everything is in its right place. Like everything is exactly where it needs to be. And you're right, he does play this kind of like interceptor character. And I do think that these cruiserweights must have just been so much fun to wrestle. And at the time, I sort of feel like when I watch a lot of this sort of stuff now, I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're going too fast. I don't know if they're trying to do too much, but it always seems kind of sloppy to me.
Now,
Other than like what
okay,
now, yeah, I just see a lot of mistakes and a lot of like I don't feel and a lot of moves where like you don't really feel the impact, you know. So like a cruiserweight will do like a Hurricane Rana or something, and I'll feel like, yeah, I don't feel that impact there. But here, I feel like the attention to the basics was more things like punching. And I know they don't punch a lot in wrestling now, but when they punched at this time, it just I don't know. I feel it.
I will
feel
say
it more. I feel that
that
impact.
one of the things that I loved about WCW, and hello, Dan Reed from Eve, who has just shown up in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. One thing that I love about WCW is, and it's a small thing, but it's one of those things that I'm just like, ooh, is the sound of the mat. It makes this real like ka-dunk every time someone hits it. So it just makes everything feel just that extra bit painful, which is really, really fun to watch and really kind of immerses you in that. But yeah, I think this match, I don't think there's much to say about it. One question I had, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, who was the heel and who was the face? Because I assumed Dean Malenko's the heel because he's the ground and pound and the technical guy stopping the high-flying action. But then Ultimo Dragon has the heel manager. He's got Sonny Ono with him. So I was a little bit confused as to who was supposed to be the heel in this. Did you have that or?
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange dynamic, wasn't it? And I think that there was a lot of. Did I hear like USA chants as well?
I think so when Sonny Ono was on. We just for Dan in the chat, we've gone past the New Japan and the ECW chat, and we're just straight into WCW. We briefly covered it in our bit at the front. I know you love ECW, but we've brushed past that fairly quickly, straight into WCW and cruiserweight action. Yes, there were USA chants, which I think you always get in these type of matches. You know, it's just by default. But I think Ultimo Dragon was supposed to be the villain here. No, Dan, I did not watch WCW the first time round. I'm a child.
It's hard to tell because in all three of the matches, which are separated, I guess by about like 7 years between the first match we watched and the last match we watched, 6 or 7 years. We watched 3 matches, and the entrance is the same every time.
He just walks to the ring.
It's just Dean Malenko walks into the ring in a vest.
And it's a nice vest.
And that's what you get.
It's a sparkly magician's vest.
It's an all right vest. It's an all right
I like it.
vest. I don't know if
it's satiny, looks
it's
soft.
Like this, yeah.
He looks happy
like
to wear
in lieu
it.
of a character. I've got this nice vest.
See my vest.
That's pretty much him, yeah. And I guess it goes with what you were talking about of like he's gonna sort of bring it down to the mat every time. It's no nonsense. It's straightforward. We're not going to worry too much about it. Let's move into the next match, which was against Rey Mysterio at Halloween Havoc, which is a similar dynamic, but more, right? There's just more goes on in this match. It feels like a flashier match. It feels like there's sort of more to get your teeth into. What order did you watch them in? Did you watch them in this order?
Yeah, so we watched it in the order we're talking about it. And what I will say, just before we dive into the analysis of this match, one thing that I absolutely love is the fact that doing this podcast has given me a chance to go back and watch old Rey Mysterio stuff. So when we did the Two Cold Scorpio stuff last week, I was like, well, while I'm on the network, while I'm watching ECW TV, let's watch some of these matches with Psychosis that I hadn't seen. And oh my God, Rey Mysterio is so good. He is, you know, I am a massive Rey Mysterio fan, and I've not gone back and watched a lot of this WCW stuff. So to be able to see him at 21 doing what he does now, but just even faster, is so good. So good.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because Rey Mysterio moves like a bolt of lightning now. So like when you watch him then, it's like, it's crazy how quick this guy moves. I mean, he's also, I would hazard, like, he's so much thicker now. Like then he really looks like a kid. He was like, when in like 2006 Rey Mysterio, he's you know, it felt like he was kind of coming towards the end of his career. He's, you know, he's had 2 kids, he's getting a bit of the dad bod, still in tremendous shape. And then he just disappears for a while, comes back, and oh my God, like he looks in better shape now than he did then. It's absolutely incredible. Dan from Eve has just said in the chat, Malenko could transition of his style. He was someone, he keeps writing really fast. He was someone who could work both roles. He wasn't a straight happy clappy baby face, which I think makes sense because that would freak me out. Happy clappy Dean Malenko. I don't think he could exactly pull it off. So I think he kind of floated between the two, almost like I'm trying to think of a modern day equivalent. Maybe like a Cesaro, something like that. Yeah, well, I think he just did his thing, didn't he? And maybe it probably depended a lot on who his opponent was. You know, I think he could just do, like I said, he's the same character when we see him in '96 as he is when we see him in early 2000s in WWE. It's the same thing, but obviously an extremely adaptable guy. So how did you feel about the Rey Mysterio
this match? I loved it so much. So obviously going into this match, Malenko is very obviously the heel here. Like he's got Rey Mysterio's mask. He's clearly taken it from Rey in a previous episode of Nitro, and now he's kind of walking around with it, and he jumps Rey the second the match starts. So clearly showing that. This match is. It starts off kind of very frantic, very fast-paced, and I love seeing Rey Mysterio do his thing, bouncing off the ropes, high-flying, jumping all about. And then again, Malenko plays the spoiler, not going to let you do that, grounds him right down, brings it to a halt. And then we get some of these incredibly crisp transition moves where, like, Ray will go for a West Coast pop and Dean just grabs him and power bombs him, and there's just there's no need to take even a millisecond to process what he needs to do. He just grabs him, bam. And that goes with everything that Ray does as well. Like he hits some West Coast pops, like the jump and then doing the flip one, and it's so smooth and so incredible. And again, I think helped by this crowd that they just keep swelling up and getting more and more excited. I believe at this point they say in the broadcast this is their 5th time wrestling in WCW.
Yeah. It's the rubber match. They've won 2 each at this point, yeah.
And I'm sure they've wrestled countless times before this, but it's something that I only learnt about being kind of around wrestling in the last couple of years is about basing. So, you know, doing all that high-flying stuff isn't possible if you don't have someone solid to catch you and to kind of help give you that momentum. And Malenko is just incredible at doing that. Like he seems like he's having so much fun working with Ray.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's such a great dynamic between the two of them, and it's just what's great about it is just how fluid it is. Like you said, the transitions between one thing to the next. You get the impression that these guys have just wrestled so many times before. It's the kind of like unspoken trust in each other. They know what the guy's going to do next. They know where they're going from here. Like, and it's constantly moving from one thing to the next. The high flying, like I said, there are just moments where like they'll hit these high flying moves, but they will hurl themselves into it. You know, they will. It's so physical. It's so full on. Yeah, it's a really enjoyable match, and I just think this is just the perfect opponent for someone like Dean Malenko. Is this person who can just move from one thing to another. Having said that as well, Dean Malenko is no slouch with that sort of stuff either. Like when he flips, when he moves around the ring, like he's again throwing everything he has into it. Like I wonder if the cruiserweights, I don't know, at this time in WCW, I know you weren't watching at the time. Is there a sense, do you think, with these guys that they're trying to steal the show, that they want to be the best wrestlers on the show? Even though they're not
main eventing,
they're not in those title matches and not
absolutely.
Main eventing.
I mean, something that Dan in the comments brought up is how the WCW Cruiserweight division is quite similar to AEW's roster now, where it feels like, and I think going on that, it does feel like it's not a case of, right, you only get 3 minutes, so make sure you keep it to a minimum and stuff like that. It feels like you've got 5 minutes, blow them away. Like, steal the show in whatever time you're allotted. And you can tell that with the cruiserweights. They really feel that, we can steal the show just by having the best match. We don't get a lot of story time, so what story we do have, we have to go out there and tell in the ring. And I can imagine the atmosphere from, documentaries and stuff I've seen, the atmosphere was probably a bit difficult backstage. Like, for a lot of these guys, like Rey Mysterio's looking at Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and being like, well, I ain't getting a sniff of that main event scene. But he knows what he can do, or it seems like what he knows he can do is take that 15 minutes he gets at the start and just make a name for himself and blow them away. So I definitely think that's certainly the case.
Yeah. And it comes from like a pure wrestling place as well, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know how much time they had to. I mean, do you know what I remember? I don't know if this is true or not, but I will tell you what I remember from when I was a kid is that like the cruiserweights would take up the first hour of the show. Like I remember just being like, it always started that. Well, I don't remember if it was an hour, maybe the first third, but I just remember like it would the way they would do their cards. See, now in WWE, what happens is your main event guy comes out first, right, and does his promo and he teases what's at the end of the show. I don't think that was the case then. I think it was more as a card. Like, no, you don't get to see the main event guy until the main event.
Because the show was only 2 hours, which is a good amount of time to have a show. Not 3 hours, 2 hours. That's a good, good watchable
3 hours.
It's too long. But and I think on that point, I think commentary kind of do the job of hyping the main event, because that's one thing that I find interesting and I quite like is throughout the opening match, you'll get Bobby Heenan and those, it seems like they bring in Mike Tenay to do you're the nerd who knows about Japanese wrestling and lucha libre, talk about the nerdy stuff that we don't care about. Whilst Shivani and Bobby Heenan kind of go, well, Hogan tonight, he's taking on Lex Luger, and it's going to be who's going to win out of the NWO and the seems to be, that seems to be kind of what commentary's doing from what I've seen of this so far.
Yeah. Well, yeah, commentary are doing a much better job here in a number of different ways. You have the color commentary, you have the play-by-play, you also have we're going to put this in perspective in terms of the show, in terms of what you're watching and what you're looking forward to and all of that. It's the commentary, like you said, is doing just lots of heavy lifting here in a way that they just, at least in the matches that we watched last week, they just were not doing in ECW. I mean, for one, it was just one dude, wasn't it? I mean, it's harder to do that, but here it's no, it's a TV show, and we've got to put or pay-per-view or whatever it is, and we've got to put over the pay-per-view and everything on it. So yeah, it's more like a fully formed product. But the only point I was getting at is just that they really, I think, had it really felt like a separate, unique thing, this cruiserweight stuff, and these guys were able to wrestle and wrestle and wrestle. And so when you look at a match like this, which is match five on screen, God knows how many times these two guys had wrestled before then. It's just as slick as anything you're ever going to see.
Dan's just pointed out that the cruiserweights did not take up the first hour of the show. So they would have a period of time where the luchas and the cruiserweights were the openers, but not for a full hour. However, I imagine back in today, when you're a wee little laddie, watching Liger and Mysterio do their thing, I imagine it felt like an hour in a good way.
It felt like it. I just remember that, I just remember when I was a kid that I felt that structure.
That it would start there, and
there was as a wee lad, as a wee lad, I felt that structure, and I felt the comfort in that structure. I knew what I knew what I was getting. I knew where we were going to start. I knew where we were going to end, and I just like the way that build. I think it's when the WWE announced, God, what was it, 5 years ago now, that they were reintroducing the cruiserweight division. I really hoped that they would do it like that it would be a proper division and they would get their time, and we bring back that structure to the main show that I think we've lost.
So I'll tell you something about that. I went to a taping of Raw at the O2 Arena, and it was a live Raw taping. And they did a segment, I can't remember what, went to an ad break. During the ad break, I don't know if you remember when 205 kind of got its starting. When 205 got going, they would have a segment of Raw where it was this is the 205 segment, and they rebranded it. It was everything was purple, the ring mat had 205 written on it, and all of that. So they go to an ad break, and I look down at the ring, and there's 8 dudes in there just wrapping the ring ropes, wrapping them in purple, putting the new mat down, all of this. Then fireworks go off, Geordie Neville's coming out. They're still going. They're still changing the ring, and he's walking to the ring, and he's not going slow. He's moving down there with pace. And as he rolls into the ring, the last crew guy finishes wrapping, rolls out, and the way that Neville walks up to the turnbuckle, all the lads walk this way. They're never seen on camera. It was one of those moments of production where I was like, wow, you have this down to a slick, fine art, and it's incredible. It's got nothing to do with the cruiserweight action. I just wanted to give a shout out to the ring guys that did such a skilled job. Cruiserweights in their own right, quite frankly.
Well, yeah, but also it's rubbish, isn't it? Because all of that all of that was part of the problem, wasn't it? Is that they should have had their own piece of the pie. They should have had their own piece of the show that we felt like, no, this is your time. And we're getting off topic a little bit, but
and listen, none of us watched 205.
All I'm saying is,
so
no, we don't.
We were given it. We don't watch it.
Or especially if your show is 3 hours long.
It's too long. It's too long.
You know. Anyway,
just
we're getting off topic. But anyway, all I'm saying is, they could look at this the way it was then, the way it was in my mind, the comfort that it brought me as a lad, and they could learn from it. Is all I'm saying.
I think just before we go on to WWE. Oh, Dan's just written, Dale, did you know that Aaron was one of those guys? Aaron is one of the Eve crew. So that is, I did not know that. There you go. Aaron, props to you, sir. Props to you. A wonderful illustrator as well. Check him out on Instagram. I forget what his Instagram handle is. I'll get Dan to write it in there. He's the only one watching, so it doesn't matter.
I'm sure. I'm sure if they just type in Aaron, they'll find him,
absolutely.
Right?
Just before we move on to his time in WWE, do you know what his last match in WCW was? So his last match in WCW was against your boy, Billy Kidman, in a catch-as-catch-can wrestling match. The rule of it being, you cannot leave the ring. If you leave the ring, you're disqualified and you lose. They lock up. They do a couple of bits. Within 30 seconds, Kidman pushes Malenko and he does the heel roll out of the ring, gets disqualified.
Yeah.
And he looks at the ref like, no, shit, And I don't know to this day. Maybe Dan in the comments can shed some light on it. Some people say it was a shoot. Some people say it's work. Like, no one knows. To me, it looks legit. It looks like he genuinely forgot what he was supposed to be doing, rolled out the ring, and is like, oh, no. Bollocks.
I feel like if they were gonna do that, it would have lasted longer. Like, they would have left it later in the match
as well. That's like, you know, and I saw people online being like, well, if it was real, they'd have just restarted the match. This was the opening match of the show. I think also in 99 WCW, I think they had more important things that they were like, you know what? It only lasted 30 seconds. Move on. Next segment.
Yeah. We'll give Kevin Nash another 5 minutes. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, there we go. Dan says in the comments, Billy Kidman told me it was a mistake. So there you go.
Billy Kidman. I love having Dan in the comments.
He's a fountain of knowledge.
Fountain of inside information. All right. The last match we're going to talk about
Ultimo Dragon
that I knew of before.
Rey Mysterio.
Scotty Too Hotty. Now listen. One of the reasons that I wanted to do Dean Malenko this week was because of this match. Because I saw this match a few months ago. I can't remember why I ended up watching it, but I ended up seeing it, and I was like, "Holy shit! Like, this is a great match." And you don't think of Scotty. You think Scotty Too Hotty. You think a lot of things. One of those things isn't great matches, you know. And so the reason I wanted to pick this and I wanted to talk about it is because, you know, we're talking about Dean Malenko as a guy that worked super well with these quick, light cruiserweights that had this certain style, and, you know, they really complemented each other really well. But what I think you see in this is that there's more to it than that. There's the psychology, and it's a slightly different role for him, and there's something about this match which I think is quite special. Maybe it's just me that thinks this. I'll see. You know, I'll ask you what you think in just a second. But I think there's something about this match which shows that Dean Malenko was not just one of those guys that could have great matches with great wrestlers, but he could take a wrestler who's solid but not known for memorable, really good matches, and he can elevate him
Yeah.
to the next level. I don't know if this is Dean Malenko's best match, but I think this is Scotty 2 Hotty's best match. What do you think?
Before I get on to talking about this match, one thing that I know for certain is on this podcast, we do not disparage the good name of Scotty 2 Hotty. Dan, I'm going to take you back to 2009.
Yeah.
Our very first independent wrestling show that we ever attended. You know, and people talk about British wrestling now and how amazing it is with main eventers like, Pete Dunne and Kaylee Ray and Tony Storm and, Will Ospreay and all of these guys. No. Back in 2009, we had the real main event. Falls Count Anywhere match. Scotty 2 Hotty versus Raven. That's what I'm talking about. We took the opportunity to get in the ring when they were brawling in the crowd. We were young. We didn't know any better. We didn't know that wasn't a smart idea. But we did it. And it was great. No regrets.
So did everyone else. By the way, Scotty 2 Hotty wasn't even supposed to be there last night. He was the replacement for Al Snow. Yeah, it was supposed to be Al Snow versus Raven in a hardcore match, but for whatever reason, Al Snow couldn't go. And Scotty 2 Hotty was his
we locked
replacement.
out. That's a much better match. I like Al Snow, but he's no Scotty 2 Hotty.
I tell you what you should have done. Tell you what you should have done, which I bet you didn't do.
Pull the photo up.
Put the picture of us and Scotty 2 Hotty in the...
Me with my long hair, us looking paler than a ghost next to this neon orange human being. Spectacular times. This match is definitely, other than that match, is definitely Scotty 2 Hotty's best match. It's really good. And I think you get that in the crowd because if I'd have been in the audience at Backlash 2000, I've just seen the opener, Road Dogg and I think Billy Gunn versus Edge and Christian. I'm pumped after that match. And then I see Dean Malenko and Scotty 2 Hotty walk out. I'm going, you know what? This is a good time to go to go to the toilet. And I would come back and be very disappointed that I missed that match. And there seems to be a moment where, I want to say 5 minutes into the match, the crowd are kind of like, this isn't over yet. And it feels like this match should be over, and it just keeps going and it keeps building. And, one thing I will say is you forget how electric the crowd are for the Worm. My God, people love the Worm. It's a great move. I mean, it's stupid, but it's great.
Oh, yeah.
And the crowd love it. This is brilliant.
Yeah, well, there are a couple of things. So the Worm, let's touch on the Worm because...
Never touch on the Worm.
Exemplifies.
Never touch on the Worm.
I think if we touch on the Worm tells us why.
Tell us Wise Worm.
The Wise Worm tells us why Dean Malenko never ascended to that main event, fighting for
This is it. This is why.
World Heavyweight Championship. It's why because, you realize that these moves, the Worm, 5-knuckle shuffle, people's elbow, they're dumb, right? They're really silly, but they get over. And I think that's the thing that Dean Malenko just never worried about. Or that's the impression I get. He never worried about, how am I going to get over? How am I going to get to this next level? I mean, he was such a proficient technician. And I think he just relied, my impression is that I think he just relied on that. I'm going to be super solid. I'm going to have these great matches. And yet, a guy like Scotty 2 Hotty, who isn't that, really, when he hits that move, the match jumps to the next level. The crowd all of a sudden, they were into it. Now, it's nuclear. Now they were into it. Now they are invested with everything that they have. Like the second match on the card, they're popping. They're excited. They're every near fall they're popping for. The match just changes. And I really just love that because like I said, I think it really exemplifies why Dean Malenko never got to that next level. As good as he was, he didn't have a
I
worm.
mean, I would also like to point out Scotty 2 Hotty did not get over to that next level. Like, Otis
he
is
didn't.
also not
He
going to get
didn't.
to that next level. I don't know how Cena
He
and how The
didn't.
Rock have gotten away with doing such stupid moves, but I don't think we can narrow down all of Dean Malenko's career to the wise worm of Scotty 2 Hotty.
No, maybe you can't. But it's an observation. Also, the other thing I want to talk about is the finish.
Oh, it's
Finish of this match is so cool.
I had a moment where I was like, oh, look at Scotty 2 Hotty doing the top rope suplexes, and then the way that Malenko just twists it into a DDT. I was like, that's very yeah, that's golf clap for that, sir. Golf clap, because I feel like cheering would put off Dean Malenko, so I'd rather just give him a polite golf clap.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's a great reversal. It looks brutal. It really is out of nowhere. I mean, you can sense the way the match is built, and it's such a classic wrestling match. He's working the knee, I think, like, and he's working it and he's working it. The worm comes in, and it's so well told. And the reason you know that is because you know the match is about to end. You know, it's been built and it's been built, and you're like, the ending is here somewhere. You can feel it, and that's the sign of a great wrestling match, is when you know that. But the way it happens, that DDT reversal, it's a thing of beauty. It's out of nowhere.
Two matches
and
in a row that end in him just doing a top rope move.
That's right, and I love that. I love it when wrestlers win not doing their finishing move.
I don't know if I agree.
I'm a big fan of that. Yeah,
I like it occasionally. But
no, we need to get back to more than that. You see, the problem is it's all just become a bit too predictable. We do. It's all become a bit too predictable. We need, like, if a move is brutal enough, because this is the thing psychologically. The thing is that, like, he's on the top rope, like, he's struggling. We're near the end of the match. They're both tired, and he just manages to, like, pull out something brutal in desperation, right? And he wins, and I love that. I just love that from, like, the story perspective. Like, if he'd hit the DDT and got up his finisher, it's not as good. It's not as good if he gets up and finishes it the normal way. I just feel like we need more of that sort of realism in wrestling.
I was just thinking then, as you were saying that, I was like, going back to the worm and him having to hit that move out of desperation. The reason Dean Malenko wasn't in, like, the main event of WWE or WCW wasn't because, like, he didn't have a worm. It's because he was in desperation against Scotty 2 Hotty. Like, that's why. The Rock never. Look, I know he lost to the Hurricane once, and I know we talk about that and we joke, but, like, Stone Cold would have taken 2 looks at this man and been like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not.
Yeah.
That's just not happening.
But that was his place.
And one thing, I don't know, like, listen, I don't know if Dean Malenko stays up at night thinking, rats, I never won the world championship. I never ascended the mountain in that way. Or if what I assume is he's at home at night going, I had a great wrestling career. I did great. Everything was great. Because he did do great.
Yeah.
And I think just to get onto the end here, because I know after this, it kind of, his time in the WWE wasn't incredible. Shortly after this, he was tag teaming with The Godfather as Double Ho 7. That's what he was doing. That's what he was given. He then started, like, hitting on Lita, and it was weird and it was creepy and no one liked it.
I think he had a match with Lita,
I believe so. And then he feuded with either Jacqueline or Ivory. I can't remember which. Because that's just, that's where he was at this point. He was... I don't know what it is about WWE, but they love taking a guy who's clearly not a ladies' man and going, I'm going to make you a ladies' man because it's funny to laugh at you. I don't know why they feel the need to do that, but they did it.
Well, I think probably it was something to do with the fact that they were trying to make him more interesting. They were trying to make him take this wrestler, this pure wrestler, and turn him into a character.
They did, I guess.
I'd imagine. I think that's what they were
Dan
trying
in
to
the
do.
chat says, back onto your point of finishing moves, if a wrestler can only win with a finishing move, why would you care about the previous 10 minutes of the match? Why not just keep hitting your finish time and time again? Logically, makes no sense with only to win with only a finish. Look at MMA. You have fighters who have trademark moves, things they're known for, but not things they win with every time because that would be unrealistic. I know it would be unrealistic, but I want to see the human zombie man hit his tombstone pile driver finisher at the end of the match. I know that's not very realistic, but I want to see it.
Yeah, but I want both.
I want everything.
First of all, Dan, I completely agree 100%. Also, what you want and what you need of two very different things. Like, you might want to see the zombie man hit his tombstone, but the thing is, if you have to wait for a special occasion, and you'll prefer it that way.
Let me tell you something. I, as a wee young lad, biggest Jeff Hardy fan in the world, right? Biggest Jeff Hardy fan. And at that taping in Raw was the first time I saw him live. You know what he did? He ran out with Matt. They scared off the bar. And that was it. They didn't come out later to do a dark match. They didn't do anything like that. They just did that. I was pissed. I was like, it's good to see you, good to hear the music. Would have liked to have seen a Swanton Bomb. The following year, we go to a SmackDown taping. It's great taping. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura in the main event. And it was actually their best match they had that year. It's all going well. But I'm like, Jeff's not on the card. They come out and they go, The Miz will... Jeff Hardy will defend the IC title against The Miz after 205 Live. And I was like, you sons of bitches. Because I don't want to watch 205 Live. I'm not here for that. Yeah. I don't want to watch... I don't want to watch it. But now I've got to stay. Because he might... And he did. He finally hit the Swanton Bomb in that. And it was incredible. But I could have done without the 2 hours of 205 Live and main event before I got to see that moment. Just saying. Think of the crowd. Give them what they want. Well, give them the worm.
No, don't. I mean, no. I mean, I completely disagree. I'm not even sure that was even a point. I think you were just airing something that's been bothering you for like the last few years.
Yeah, I've really just had a bit of a therapy session there.
Yeah,
I feel better. I feel good.
You've got to think about the 300 people, the couple of thousand people in attendance.
It's COVID times. They're spacing them out more. 300.
But more importantly, you've got to think about your general product and what's going on as a whole. I love it when we're getting off the topic again, but I love it when wrestlers have a finishing move like beyond the finishing move, like something they only pull out on special occasions.
Oh yes, can you give me an example of one? Because I know I've got one in here, and I'm trying to.
Well, like Walter, doesn't Walter do like the flying headbutt?
Just like a big splash. He doesn't need to headbutt. He just jumps on people.
Splash, yeah.
Yeah.
Splash,
or like Randy Orton's punt kick. That we don't get
anymore.
Doesn't
do so much anymore. Or I remember when CM Punk had his big CM Punk thing in WWE. He kept teasing that he was going to do the Pepsi Max. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I seem to remember one match against Triple H. He had him up in the corner and he was like, because it's the similar setup just from the top rope. And yeah.
Yeah.
That was never happening.
He knew that he was going to it. But anyway, we're getting way off topic. Finishing moves. But Dean Malenko, yeah, I think you're right. He this great career. Such a solid wrestler.
Kobayashi
really
and the Burning Hammer.
Watch.
Good example.
Briefly touch on before we finish here.
Yep.
Doesn't have, my opinion, doesn't have a lot of charisma. This guy, for how quality he is in the ring, just not. You don't feel like charisma. You like to watch him. You don't feel that charisma oozing from him. He's a little bit more entertaining in the Scotty 2 Hotty match, I think, because that's more of the style then. do you think that maybe he rested on his wrestling laurels, like I think, and sort of didn't try to sort of get to that next level in terms of entertainment?
I think there's, again, this has kind of been very interesting doing a lot of wrestling photography over the last couple of years and working a lot with wrestlers. And part of what my job is to bring out character in people to get those promo shots, right? I want those big, like, reactions, because I don't want, like, passport photos where people are like, I want that. I want big characters out of people. And I think some people, it's different aspects, right? And I think a lot of people get into wrestling with the idea of these big characters, with the idea of like the Hulk Hogans and the Rocks and Austins and Scotty 2 Hotties. That's right, I'm putting him up in there. Where it's these big, larger-than-life characters, and they can do all of that. And they, whether it's jumping in front of the camera or jumping in front of people and really just letting go. And then you get other people that get into it because they really enjoy wrestling, and they enjoy the art form of wrestling as like a mat-based thing or a high-flying thing or something like that. And they can do all of that, but then you put a microphone in their hand and they go, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Or you point a camera at them and they're like, I don't know what to do with my hands all of a sudden. And I think people can be kind of coached into learning it. But I mean, you look through, if anyone wants an example of this, go and have a look at promo photos of Dean Malenko. He was perfectly happy just wrestling, just being a wrestler, just being like, I am a wrestler man that does the wrestle. And I think he definitely relied on that more than like being this larger than life character, which isn't a bad thing. I think we have seen that, and we've seen examples of that working and growing into successes. But it's like a Walter, as you just kind of said then. It's a very stoic character that he has. It isn't like crazy and bombastic. It's very much based on being a technical powerhouse. But sometimes it works. Maybe it's because he's got the size to hand as well that Dean Malenko didn't. I don't know.
Well, if you just look at the two guys who were talking about from the ECW days, if you look at like Guerrero and Benoit, both as good, if not better, in terms of technical wrestling, but both also had that other thing.
I think, funny enough, so Eddie's a perfect example of someone who you can just give him a script and he's just like, I'm going to let loose, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to really have fun. Like, again, growing up, watching the Los Guerrero stuff with him and Chavo, brilliant, really great stuff. With Benoit, it's almost the opposite, because again, you put a microphone in Benoit's hand and he wasn't great, but there was an anger and a tenacity to it. Funny enough, Dan's just said in the chat, what about Brock Lesnar? And I think that's a perfect example. You give him a microphone, he does not know what he's doing.
It's not about the microphone. It's not about the microphone. It's the intensity. There's something about like in the where you feel that character.
Yeah.
And I think actually both Benoit and Lesnar have that similar kind of intensity. It's the reason that their matches are must watch, because you feel like this is life and death for these guys, and they're going to win. And you can't help but get invested in that. I can't help feeling sometimes, as much as I enjoyed these Malenko matches for just the technical prowess, like I can't help thinking that like, I'm just going to his attitude is sort of like, just doing my job. I'm just going to go in, like I'm doing my thing.
Do a wrestle.
Doing my thing. You don't feel that real like grit. You just don't feel that from him. And maybe that was intentional. And like you said, maybe he doesn't care. I mean, he had a great career. He had these great matches. Maybe
I don't even think it's a case of not caring. I think he's just, again, I'm not him, nor a close personal friend, nor have I ever spoken to the man, or I don't even know if I follow him on Twitter. Don't even know if he has a Twitter. But he seems like a man who's very happy with the career that he has had. And he should be. I think he's put on some incredible matches, definitely influenced people, has been amazing from what people have said behind the scenes. That's all great. I think one last thing we'll end on here is Dan's just said in the comic, if you believe in the person, is that not a form of charisma? So when you watch Dean Malenko, did you feel like he was trying to win? It's a good point.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I don't know the answer though.
No, same.
I don't know the answer to that question.
And it's something that I'll definitely...
I don't know if I did believe that he was trying to win. I believed he was trying to wrestle well. I don't know if they're the same thing.
But do you think if he had lost, he'd have just been like, well, never mind, I'm going to go clock out now?
Certainly
you don't think he's sticking around till the end?
Certainly not in the same way that you believe Lesnar and Benoit are trying to win. Certainly not close to that.
No, because I believe that Lesnar's trying to murder whoever he's in the ring with.
Yeah.
Anywho,
we have gone on for an hour now, and we've taken a lot of tangents, and we've been sidetracked.
It's been fun,
but we are finally at an end. If you are watching this either now or later, please do subscribe. We are here every Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Come and get involved in the chat, in the comments, like Dan. Actually, it really makes the show having someone to like come in, and it can change from a conversation between the two of us to 3, 4, hopefully more people. That's the goal here. So if you do want to get involved, if you love wrestling as much as we do, please do subscribe and join us next Thursday, where we'll be talking about, I hope Dale has the name on the tip of his tongue right now.
It's a good thing. I had a long thought about this, and you mentioned that we only did one. This is our first time dipping our toe into the WWE on this show. I figured we'll stick around there for a bit longer. There's a man whose name I've known, who you've known, but I've never actually watched a single match of his. I've seen him in many a Rumble, but I've never seen a match of his.
Oh, I know what it is. Can I guess?
You can.
I might be wrong. Is it Savio Vega?
It's Savio Vega. Next week, we are going to be talking about Savio Vega, and I don't know how you're feeling about... I'm springing this on you on stream. I don't know. But maybe we'll do something... It's WrestleMania week next week. Maybe we'll do something... We're definitely not watching it on stream, but maybe we'll talk about it, or NXT, or... I don't know. I think we should do something.
Let's do something. Let's add another feather in our cap.
Proverbial. Not proverbial.
Yeah.
I actually have one.
Lovely. Well, that's lovely, Savio Vega. Then, do you know what I'm gonna do? I will do the description tonight, and I will. Do you have the matches at the moment? Do you know which matches we're talking about?
No, but I will within the next hour.
I will post the matches in the YouTube description for next week, either today or tomorrow. So thank you very much for watching if you've watched. And until next time, we will